We're not going to turn our back on them. We're not going to abandon them. I've had a few fighters that I knew, like female fighters especially, that didn't have family. And a lot of them would leave before anything ever went wrong because they didn't want to be left themselves. You know, and I think that was the biggest thing for him, is to understand. You know, I tell him all the time, hey, bro, I love you, man. I don't expect you to say it back to me.
Yeah, just know.
Just know, hey, man, I love you. I'm not afraid to tell you that I love you. I'm not afraid to tell you. You don't have to tell me back, but just know, man, I love you. I'm here for you, whatever you need.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Fitz Nation. Happy you hit the play button once again. I was thrilled recently to go pay a visit to my good friend Eric Nicksick at Extreme Couture right here in Las Vegas. Now, Eric Nicksick has won MMA Coach of the Year. Extreme Couture has won MMA Gym of the Year. They've really had a strong squad, especially recently, and Nicksick has really blossomed into one of the best coaches in the game, despite the fact that he never fought mixed martial arts. Of course, he helped Francis Ngannou rise to a UFC title. He's still his coach as Ngannou continues to compete in boxing, and we'll see what's in his future. But also the partnership that he has formed with Sean Strickland that led Sean Strickland to one of the most unlikely rises to a UFC championship in the history of the sport. Now, we talk about the lack of time that Eric has spent on social media recently and how that has led to a more fulfilling life and more quality time with his family, his friends, and his team at Extreme Couture. We talk about his partnership with Sean Strickland and what it really has done for Sean to be part of a team, to settle in, and instead of being a fighting nomad that jumps around to different gyms and always wants to spar, to lead practice, to be part of something that's bigger than himself, and has really helped his life, in addition to obviously leveled up his fighting career. And then we talk about a friendship concept, and I want you to ask yourself, do you have more real friends or do you have more deal friends? You'll hear what I'm talking about later in the show. Enjoy.
You like my setup?
I do. I like you.
This is like podcast in a backpack.
I love it.
Eric Nicksick is on the show again.
Dude, this
good.
is like seventh time?
It's at least 4.
Okay, all right.
So I always like talking to you for a lot of different reasons, and I texted you. Now it's February, but in January, I like to talk about like life concepts because it's just the turn of the calendar.
Yeah.
How do you think about that? Like when it becomes January, if it's not for New Year's resolution that eventually fail around this time of the year, what do you think about around that?
I mean, I kind of hate it because I think your goals and everything should be ever changing, right? Like it just because you didn't maybe hit something in a calendar year doesn't mean you should like throw it away or not do it or whatever else. Or that goal can constantly be changing or evolving, or maybe you hit it in that period of time, you know? So
and then what?
I have like,
and then what, right?
You know, and then what? Like, are you happy with that? Or, you know, so I don't think people should be so handcuffed to like, oh, January 1st, here's my goals. I think it's a good road marker, if you will. But no, I mean, you should have weekly goals. You should have monthly goals, right? And what's your end game for whatever you're trying to grow into? And I think with somebody like when I was in college, a professor gave me that kind of like that roadmap, if you will. And it was like, okay, here's your end game goal, but how do you get there? What's your roadmap look like? And it was like a 1 month, a 3 month, a 6 month, a 1 year. And you're like, okay, this makes a lot of sense to me now.
Last time we did this, I asked you, what are you working on right now? And you were like, I'm focusing on being more present in my real life.
Yep.
Putting the phone away a little bit more.
Yep.
How have you succeeded with that?
Actually really good. Like I'm not in the comments anymore. Like I'm that kind of post and ghost thing. So like you and I were talking about, we have a presence on social media that helps pay us and helps give us alternative means of income. So there's a necessity to it, but there's also a part that can turn into like a rabbit's hole where you're just sitting there reading the comments and seeing what the people saying or the posts or this or that, to the point where you don't that whole post and ghost mentality has really worked for me. And you kind of learn to not really miss it, you know, like you're like, I'm good. Like I don't need to see what so-and-so was doing, you know? And then I feel like I'm getting better sleep because I'm not laying up and looking at stuff and my mind keeps rolling and turning. So I've been more focusing on like going to bed and watching some film study, whatever it may be. And it helps me kind of calm and relax, and then it puts me to sleep. The other thing too, man, is just like, you know, McKenna just turned 16. She's driving.
Wow.
Yeah, dude. So it's tripping me out. Like my daughter's like
driving.
driving.
How old is Knox now?
Knox is 7. Knox is 7, and Avery's 14.
Yeah, so you have like the whole swath. Like
Yeah.
I mean, you haven't gone through parenthood because your oldest is still at home,
Right.
in terms of the full circle, but you're almost there.
Almost there, bro.
And you still have a 7-year-old.
Yeah. So it's a lot of fun. Like, it's a lot of fun to see the dynamics between my kids and like how they kind of treat one another and how they act towards each other. But you know, like seeing my oldest now like driving and just, you know, 4.0 student on the dance team, super mature and doing all these things. It's just like part of me now is like, oh my God, dude, she's gone in 2 years. She's leaving. She's going to college. You know, so being more present with the family and doing the family stuff, I really been enjoying a lot and making that time.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I agreed with you when you said it, and I was like making the effort, kind of. I didn't really walk the talk though, until really like in December. And the reason why this past December into January, New Year for me was so big is that like I made a major change. I really was able to put it away because of our break in the schedule.
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of more like you. I'm post and ghost, and I'm not in the comments. I'm just like, the world just opens up in
100%.
such a different way.
You feel more present, right?
Yeah.
But like even like my Twitter, I shut that off. I just deactivated it. I didn't like Twitter. Just seems so freaking.
That's
volatile.
where the negative is.
Right. You're like, ugh. But I'm feeding it on myself. Like I'm the one that hits the button to turn it on to look.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, why do I even need to look at this? Like, this is awful the way people act.
I wonder with you too, and you have a sizable following on Instagram, I know, and opportunities, like you say, with different companies to get the message out there. I wonder, like, though, would you be more in, would people gravitate to you more if you just became less of a, you know what I'm saying?
Presence.
I guess you're right.
Yeah.
Like, I'm available less here.
Right.
You got to come to me.
Yeah.
That can almost work in an opposite way.
It definitely could. And I mean, here's the thing,
like
too.
People come to this gym to be part of your squad and what you've helped to build. Yeah. And that won't change. Right. You know, because of whatever.
What got us here, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of almost my take on the whole situation is like, don't forget what got us here, and that was winning fights and being head down and grind, that mentality, and that's what got you in this situation. Now, we didn't have this type of social media back then. We had MySpace when we started at Extreme Couture, right? I remember like Mike Pyle's MySpace and all the boys had MySpace, and I was like, oh, this is a cool thing to do. You know, now, I mean, yes, there's so much more to it and levels of, okay, yes, I get nice chunk of change from these companies here and there because you do a couple posts here and there. But for the most part, man, like honestly, it's just a freaking rabbit's hole that you're just looking at dumb stuff all day long for no purpose whatsoever. And the next thing you know, you're 2-3 hours into your day. It's like, well, what did I do today? Nothing? Yeah. Come on.
Well, you being from Las Vegas, and then being the leader of this team, which is thriving, and you know, there's pro practice going on out there. There's just how many relationships are there that exist out there for you? I think something for me is like, since I pulled back on social media, I've called you, hey, can we get together for a podcast? I'm going to have lunch with a coworker. Like I'm going to have lunch with somebody next week that's in town, because I didn't hit the like button and think in my brain that I had a social interaction today. That was really the biggest problem and has been the biggest pleasant change for me.
It shows a little bit more presence, right?
Yeah. And you just get to live like more of a full life.
I actually texted a buddy today, just one of those things where it's like he came into my head, shot him a text, hey, bro, thinking about you, hope you're doing well. Right, one of those things, but it's more of a transaction on a personal level rather than I just liked your post. And, you know, I'm around the area, right. But like, I haven't talked to the guy in years, and I was like, oh man, I wonder how Daniel's doing. Shot him a text, you know, and what did he say? Dude, you made my day. I haven't heard from you in a while. It's great to hear from you. You know, so
that's awesome.
I just think just that more like, you know, presence. And the other thing I noticed too, and maybe you get this a lot, is like you have my phone number. I consider us pretty good friends. People will write us on Instagram when they have your phone number for like business opportunities, or like, you know, isn't that weird though? Yeah. Like I was like, why are you?
They'll DM you on Instagram or like, call me.
Call me, bro. You have my number. I'm trying not to be on this damn thing.
There's a friend concept, and you just brought it up. I'm gonna bring it up towards the end of the show, though. Don't let me forget it. So. Really, for you, I didn't want to spend the whole time talking about our phones, but that's kind of what it spiraled into there for a few minutes. What are you working on now then? And actually, let me frame it like this. I heard John Kavanaugh say this concept. Never gets too high, never gets too low as a coach.
I say it all the time.
And like, walking in the doors today, I had certain things that I wanted to talk to you about, and then I see you walking around, and there's 60 friggin' pro fighters out there. Sean Strickland's out there. Jamal Hill's out there. Chris Curtis is out there. Big time guys. But it's just Thursday.
It's just Thursday.
There's going to be fights this Saturday.
Yep.
There's going to be fights the next Saturday. 9 more in a row.
Yeah.
And your job is to show up here and be there for those guys on a day in, day out. How does that affect how you treat things when the lights on a Saturday are very bright and not many people see what goes on day to day?
I have one of the best resources for me on a personal level. Is one of my best friends growing up. He's a former Navy SEAL, DevGru, Team 6 guy, the tip of the spear, the best of the best, right? You're a Navy SEAL, then you test for Green Team, and then you're on the best of the best that do it, Tier 1 operators. There's the unit, there's DevGru, and there's SAS guys, right? So having TJ in my life is always a interesting dynamic because I get to talk to him about things at the highest level when it came to life and death, right? So it puts things in perspective for me. But when I talk to him about things, it's all about turning the page. Right? Like he'll talk about, hey, I was on an op and, one of my good buddies got shot up, but we were back out the next night. We had to. Now, are we doing things at that level? Absolutely not. But the mentality is still the same, right? Yes, we lost our title. Yes, this, yes, that. You get about, dude, I had less than 24 hours. I was back in the gym Monday with Ige. Now, if I bring that same energy where it's like, oh man, I'm down, it's not fair to the next guy up. It's not fair. And in that same perspective, like TJ would talk to me about, he's like, yo, bro, the next op, we got to be sharp. We got to be ready to go because we don't want what happened to our guy the last time out. Now we got to be ready to go and even fucking more dialed in, So having him, I know it's an extreme. Like what we're doing is nowhere near what these guys do on the military level.
Right.
But it is a good way for me to understand how to turn the page, how not to get too high or too low, because the next day doesn't matter. It's all about your training. It's all about your people that you're surrounding yourself with, your perspective on things in life, right? And then be ready for the next guy up.
How does it feel like in the Sean Strickland case over Dricus? Like, how sad do you allow yourself to get that night or the next day? Knowing that Monday you got to come in and try to just hit the reset button as tough as it is.
The weight of a title, right? Like, I understand how hard those are to come by. I was next to Joe Benavidez for quite a few of those. And like one of my closest friends, a guy that everybody loves and adores, that you just wanted to see a belt wrapped around his waist, and that just missed him a couple times, 3 or 4 times. And you're like, man, like of all the guys in the world, and like I want people to understand the importance of winning a world title, right? And I'm not saying Sean didn't, but I just know how hard they are to win, and then to not be able to finish the job. And look, you can scream robbery. It was a close fight. When I see a close fight, I immediately think of what we could have done better. Mm-hmm. How do we seal those rounds up? How do we make the optics look better? How do we favor it to our side, right? And that's what kills me the most. It's not the fact that like, oh man, this judge robbed us or this. No, you can't think like that in this particular situation.
Right.
There's little things that we should have done better. And as a coach, that falls on me, and that's what eats at you. But only thing you can do is be better for the next guys out.
Yeah. Yeah, whenever it's a fight like that, I was watching it at home, and I just go, depends on how you scored round 3.
There you go.
A super close round. So it's like, there's so many fights that I've seen that are horrendous decisions.
Right.
That when you see a fight like that, you just go, we're probably going to be split.
Yeah.
Or it's going to be a 3-2 somehow unanimous. That happens too. Mm-hmm. But nobody should be upset about what happened out there.
The only people that should be upset honestly,
it's just the way the sport is.
It's just the way it should be. It's our camp. We should be upset because we left crumbs behind. Right? That's what we should be upset about. That's what I'm upset about as a coach. Maybe I should have said things more personal to Sean going into round 4 rather than in round 5. Because what I said to him in round 5 got him fired up, and then he went out and won that round. Mm-hmm. I'll admit, man, like I looked down at the canvas, right? And you know how they do the graphic of the live odds? Mm-hmm. So I saw what the live odds were after round 1 and after round 2. The odds makers agreed that we won rounds 1 and 2 by the odds, And that solidified what I saw in my head by taking it. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I felt
so
like
instead
we won.
of thinking it was 1-1,
I was like, oh, okay.
You're like,
well,
it's 2-0. We need one of the next three.
We need one of the next three, and that's my fault. You know, like
Right.
I try to take advantage of what's in front
You're
of me
absorbing as much information as you can.
all the time, right? So I'm trying to, and I'm like, okay, that was a close round. I wonder how the judges were going to score that takedown. There was no damage to the takedown. Then I look at the thing, and I'm like, well, if anybody knows better, it's the people with money on it. Sometimes
that's why you get that's why college football rankings and point spreads don't always line up. The point spreads usually tell a better story than the rankings,
exactly. So I know, I'm looking back at it, I have to watch it again. I haven't had the heart to do it yet, but from a learning experience and from a coaching perspective, it's going to be important for me to sit down and watch and go, okay, what could I have done better? What could I have looked at to do better? This would be the most outstanding part about if we had the opportunity to be able to speak to the judges the way we're speaking now. Like, dude, I'm not mad at all.
Right.
But I would love to see, okay, Mr. Cleary, why did you score it this way? So I can learn, not attack, learn. Oh, everything was very close up until he scored that takedown. Because it was so even, I gave the takedown more validity than I gave the 10 jabs.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know. Now I understand for next time out.
Right.
How do I need to change the optics a little bit more?
And then you hope that he's there and feeling the same way.
100%.
And had the same night of sleep.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, exactly.
This is crazy, right?
Exactly, right?
For Sean Strickland, what has his role with the team done for him?
I think really for him, like he feels a part of something, right? His role now, when I was in Saudi Arabia, I was asking to run my pro practice. Hey, can you run practice for me?
Yeah. Leadership.
And
he never had to have that.
Never had to have it, and no one ever really held him accountable.
Right.
He moved in and out of gyms to wherever he wanted to do because he was this nomad. But what he didn't understand was no one cared to help you get better when you didn't help them get better, or you weren't really committed to one team or one gym or whatever. You were just a dude moving in and out of gyms and trying to beat everybody up. But once you showed the commitment back towards us, that's when we showed the commitment back towards you. That's when I think things for him started to open up. He started to understand, okay, dude, this guy's going to help me win a world title. Why am I back in the gym sparring 2 weeks later? Because this guy now has a fight. And he did what for me, what I'll do for him now. That mentality I think has really helped him. And honestly, I think it's made him a better person.
Sean Strickland has been a bit more candid and open about his, issues with his family growing up and his father, his abusive father. And for those who don't know, your father, your biological father, wasn't a part of your life growing up, but you did have a strong relationship with a fatherly figure, your stepfather. Yeah. That's the name Nicksick, right? But what has been that dynamic, if anything? Has that played into it, the fact that you had, your own relationships with your father figures in your life and his lack of them, or what,
Yeah, I think I empathize with him a little bit more.
Right.
I think I try to understand because,
did you ever have that to make it about you?
Not really.
Because you had such a strong presence.
Yeah, I had a very there was a time, I think, more later on when I was graduating high school, I had a little bit more remorse because I never knew any part of their family until I was graduating high school. My mom kept me away from that entire side of that family. And then when I was graduating, my mom thought it was, kind of important for me to meet them and know who they were. That raised more questions, I think, for me than anything. So in the Sean standpoint, what his parents were and his father was very much right in front of him, and what he had to deal with on a daily basis. And growing up in that environment, I think for me, I empathized with, but I didn't quite really understand. But it was something for me that, even talking to my dad now, he helped me in a lot of ways on how do I navigate this to help Sean.
Yeah.
And my dad was the one that kind of said, well, you got to make him feel a part of something. Right?
Yeah,
you got to make him feel a part of something for him to feel like he's a part of a family.
Yeah.
Right? So that was a little bit in spurts for me. It was okay, give him responsibility.
Yeah.
Right? Give him responsibilities. Hey, man, can you help me run this practice? Oh, yeah, I would love to. Right?
Right.
Hey, man, do you want to do this, and this with the team guys? Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. Right? That kind of gets the snowball effect rolling for him going, nah, dude, I feel a part of a team now.
Yeah.
You know, now if you ask the guy, I mean, Chris Curtis said it, and I fully believe it. That dude will take a bullet for his teammates.
Yeah.
Fully believe it, man.
Yeah.
You know?
You give them value in a different way. Like Sean just thought of himself as just like, that's where the comment comes from, where like the prostitutes, like they just send us in there and for violence, and that's that.
That's that.
But he has a much more full circle now of community and life and all that.
We're not going to turn our back on them. We're not going to abandon them.
Right.
And I think that's a lot of the things that even some of the outbursts and disruptions. Like I've had a few fighters that I knew, like female fighters especially, that didn't have family, and a lot of them would leave before anything ever went wrong because they didn't want to be left themselves, right? They have these abandonment issues. So, before you up and leave me and break my heart, I'm just gonna leave. No, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I've been here 16 years. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, we love you and we care for you. You know, and I think that was the biggest thing for him, is to understand. You know, I tell him all the time, hey, bro, I love you, man. I don't expect you to say it back to me.
Yeah, just know.
Just know, hey, man, I love you. I'm not afraid to tell you that I love you. I'm not afraid to tell you. You don't have to tell me back, but just know, man, I love you. I'm here for you, whatever you need.
Where did that, like, one of the things that I most admire about you, probably the thing that I most admire about you, is the community that you have. And it's for a lot of different reasons. You're from Las Vegas. You've grown up here, so you have that community where you're in your home city. But then the relationships that you fostered here, and the fact that you're just such a regular presence, and then you couple that with this Harvard study over the course of like 50 or 60 years, and the number one determining factor for life happiness is relationships with people, quality relationships. And I'm just like, Eric's got that figured out. Like, he's never going to be in a bad way because his community and your relationship with your wife and your kids, and then the people that are here that you grew up with, like, that is so rock solid, at least outwardly looking at you, that I'm like, that's what I want more than any kind of big house or any special number in my bank account or anything. I'm just like, I want what Eric has.
I mean, honestly, and I started to focus on that more, to where when bad things happen, or you're in a bad mood, you're depressed, you're this or that. And this is a true story. I don't remember what the situation was, but I remember walking in the gym and I was in this like just rut, and I saw Danny Davis, one of my best friends. And Danny's always been this constant source of light and love and energy. I remember walking in the gym, and I looked at Danny and I almost started crying because I was so mad at whatever the freaking thing I was mad about. And what I realized was I rob the great people around me, of who I am, my energy, because I'm focused on something over here that doesn't matter. But right here, standing in front of me, this dude has cared about me for the last 15 years and has been one of my closest and best friends. I'm going to focus my attention on the people that are there that care for me, rather than the BS over here that I don't need to know about. Like it was like therapeutic for me to walk in and just see Danny Davis and go, yeah, dude, you're my guy. Yeah. Why am I robbing you of me and this energy and this love and this focus? And bro, like those relationships that I have, like even like Danny or the people at E-Gaze and around the gym, Brad, I feel so blessed because I can be able to pick up the phone and call any one of those people at any moment in the day and know that, like, dude, they'll be there for me.
Yeah. When did that happen?
I think it's always been there.
No, but then that thing with Danny.
That was probably like maybe like a year and a half ago.
Wow, recent.
Yeah, it was pretty recent. Like, I don't remember what the situation was. I wish I could, because I remember at the moment it was like, ugh. You know,
isn't that life?
Yeah.
Right?
Like,
the emotions that get us, and then you just go, I can't even remember what it was.
I can't even remember what it was. And that's what I love about that story.
Yeah.
Is like, I do remember who I saw, and I do remember thinking, man, that's my guy. I'm so happy he's here. He's probably really there's maybe 2 or 3 people, but he's like my A1 go-to on a guy that, like, did I mess this up? Or did I say this wrong? Or was I right when I did this? Because he'll shoot you straight. He's not going to tell you what you want to hear. He's going to tell you what you need to hear. And I think having those types of individuals around your life is very important. From a coaching element, Dean Thomas. Yeah. Hey, bro, did I screw up with this? Yep. Should have said this. All right. You know, put your ego aside, because you might get some good, you might get some information that you weren't expecting to hear, but it's what you need to hear.
Yeah. Knowing that you've built this team in here and how important it is for you to make it a team environment in a sport as individual and personality driven as we have, how do you manage egos?
I think understanding kind of who and what they are first, what drives them, is important. I think you can have a dictatorship, right? You can run it a certain way, but then you can also have a standard, right? And that standard is set by all of us. Coach Follis presented a standard to the entire team however many years ago. And everybody agreed on that standard. Mm-hmm. And what I remember so much about that conversation that he had, he said, now, no matter who is here, if I'm gone, this person's gone, or I leave, whatever, that standard should remain throughout this gym, no matter what. And when Robert passed, I didn't say much about the passing. I didn't say much about anything else. I said I focused on the standard. I said there's a standard that's been set that we all agreed upon. And how do we keep Robert's memory alive as we uphold this standard? And that standard should remain the same throughout, no matter if I'm gone or Dennis is gone or Ray, throughout this rest of this team. So in a lot of ways, I felt like the egos weren't necessarily like that was overshadowing anything, because I felt like that we had that for a long time early on in Shrink Tour.
Egos were an issue.
Egos were an issue.
It was about
who's
important.
My fight,
right.
My cage, my mat space, my this, and then when it was their fight was over, see you later, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't care about the next guy up.
Right.
But now it's more about the team and the success of what everyone's doing in the room. So when you win Gym of the Year, right, it has a different connotation to it because of that standard that we have set for each other.
Yeah.
Right? And I mean, it was really Robert that really came in and sat us all down. The beautiful thing about that meeting was he asked the question. He said, who and what do we want this team to represent? What do we want to become? And everybody said world champions. Great. I remember I can see fall, yeah, that's exactly what I was hoping to hear. Now, how are we going to do it? Right? Here's what I think we need to do. Do you guys all agree upon this? It was me, Evan Dunham, Martin Campman, guys that aren't even on the mats really anymore. Mm-hmm. A small group of us at the time. Mm-hmm. And all of us agreed, yes, that's our standard. So now there's 60 guys on the mats. They all understand the standard. They all understand the mission statement for the gym, right? Yep. They all understand what the hell we're trying to accomplish and achieve. So it doesn't matter if I'm out of town or I'm gone or I'm dead and gone or whatever it may be. That standard should remain the same in this facility. And it's not. And Randy always said that, man. Check your ego at the door, right? Leave it at the door, because in here we're all one.
So here's the concept about friends from earlier. Again, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I just read 3 books in January.
All right,
so I'm feeling pretty scholarly.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
But one of them had this concept in it, and it was the guy who wrote the book, and it was his son who said to him innocently, like when he was a kid, like his son was like 9 or 10, right? But it's like sometimes the gems come from the innocence of youth, right? And the guy was talking about a friend of his, and he said, is he a real friend or a deal friend? And he was just like, what do you mean by that? And he's just like, well, a lot of the guys that you're like friends with, they're like business partners or you make deals with and stuff. Yeah. Or is it a real friend?
Yeah.
And he's just like, wow, real friend or deal friend?
I love that.
And then I was like, I'm going to talk to Eric. And every time I talk to you like this, we're holding microphones.
Right.
And we're on camera. I was like, I'm going out to lunch with Eric soon.
Yeah.
Because I consider you a real friend.
Absolutely.
But this is a deal friend.
Right.
And so we got to change that.
But there's a part of this, though. Like, I support my real friends' ventures.
Of course.
Right? Like, this is when you were doing this during COVID and we were doing it on the freaking mic.
Right.
Right? Like,
on the phone.
Like, that was like, okay, bro. Like, I see your vision. Right? I have good friends of mine. Like, they have companies and startups, and this is, I'm going to wear your hat.
Yeah.
I'm going to promote it, bro. Because, and a good book that I read too, Simon Sinek, right?
Yeah.
The Infinite Game.
Yep.
Right? But there's this is it, man, for us, right? And the people that we have around us, bro, I'm cheering for your success. Because success is, it's not finite.
No.
Doesn't just run out.
No, it's not.
It's infinite, right? And I want to see. I want to see people winning. I want to see people winning.
Yeah.
I want to see my people around me winning. I love when I pull up in the parking lot and the cars have started to been upgraded over the last couple of years, right? Starting to see some Teslas and some nice cars, and guys are going, man, I got to buy a 6,000 pound car because of tax purposes. I'm like, love to hear it, man.
Nice. Yeah.
Everybody around us is growing.
Yeah.
So there's the real friends, of course, but you'd also have deals that you're trying to work on,
right?
Or you're trying to promote, or you're trying to be, and those are the guys that, like, you know, dude, what do you got going on? Hell yeah, I'm in.
Yeah.
Can I show up to help out? Can I do this? Can I do that? You know, there's a tie there, but all in all, man, if you're behind something, you're doing something, I'm in.
I knew you would, and I knew that's one of the joys of being your friend is, like, I knew that I didn't feel bad about it,
right?
But I'm like, we should still get together and go out to lunch sometime.
Absolutely. I like food.
Without a podcast around,
like food.
right? And so that's kind of like a real friends or deal friends. And I'm like, how many people are like that for me? And I'm just like, there's actually a few, because, and then the other thing too that I just noticed driving in here is, like, I'm going to have a good conversation about life with Eric, but I don't have this conversation very often with, like, my dad.
Right.
I got to be holding a microphone and on a camera for some reason.
Right.
And, like, my friends, how often do we end up talking about sports, fantasy football, surface level stuff?
Exactly.
I was like, that should change too.
Exactly. Yeah. And, you know,
but it's tough to do.
It is tough to do. But remember, like, even like we were saying today, the smallest little text message, I think, ripples through more than anything nowadays with people. Where, like, dude, if I think of some of my best friends growing up, like, I have two girls that were, like, two of my best friends growing up. All right, Sunny lives in Austin. Husband I've known since elementary school. Family I've known forever. I love you, right? And for her, it's like, oh my God, I love you too. Like, and it's just, bro, it's nothing.
Yeah,
it's nothing. But for her, it means everything. And just to let her know, like, hey, she knows how fucking busy I am.
Yeah.
But hey, I love you, miss you. I'm not asking for a 30-minute conversation.
Right.
But you're on my mind. Hope you're doing well. Love you. How's everything? Whatever. Right. And it takes zero time, zero effort. So that has been something for me. Like, if I think about somebody, just shoot them a text real quick. Hey, hope you're doing all right. Love you. Whatever it may be. And carry on about your day. But it has such a lasting effect, I think, on that individual.
Awesome, bro. Thanks for doing this.
Always, bro.
Really appreciate it,
dude.
Isn't that
you owe some gym time, though.
I know.
I always love seeing Eric, and I promise you we're going to get together without microphones and a camera present so that we can be more real friends instead of always just being on camera. I hope you enjoyed the chat, and next week I'm going to have Jim Miller on the show. I sat down with Jim Miller recently here in Las Vegas when he won his fight earlier this year. Of course, Miller has set UFC records for most all-time appearances, most all-time victories, and he has really never looked better than in recent years. Considering he's 40 years old, it's really been quite a story. Now, of course, he's getting ready for UFC 300 in April. He will be the only fighter in UFC history that fought on UFC 100, UFC 200, and now UFC 300. Fingers crossed that nothing funky happens and that we can see him on that night in April. And Eric is back next week because I saved a bonus question for him in regards to the type of career Jim Miller and others have had and what's allowed for great longevity in a sport that is so physically demanding. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time on Fitz Nation.